I think.
Is it okay if I edit a little bit of this?
Yeah,
you can get those notes. This is $40 an hour, by the way, Mark. Okay.
All right, you can't use any of that.
Star Wars, nothing but Star Wars. Give me the Star Wars. Don't let them end. Star Wars.
Star Wars was released 38 years ago, May 24th, 1977, and tonight is affectionately known as Star Wars Day, and this is hilarious.
It was May the 24th?
May the 24th, yeah.
May the 24th be with you?
That works. It still works. On the Wikipedia, Star Wars Day is defined as an unofficial secular holiday in May, which celebrates the Star Wars franchise created by George Lucas, observed by fans of the movies. And I know this on game days in baseball. At various stadiums around the country, people dress up as, stormtroopers, Darth Vader, Chewbacca, whatever, and they generally make asses of themselves at these baseball games, or basketball or hockey. So we here at BlissVille thought it only fitting to celebrate the movies, the first three, or rather the middle three, I should say, episodes 4, 5, and 6 of the original Star Wars, Empire Strikes Back, and Return of the Jedi. The movies are not only wildly successful science fiction space operas filled with thrills, chills, and half-naked Carrie Fisher, but touchstones, incredibly monstrous cultural phenomena. So this will be a rather large, supersized episode, and I've invited my friend Andrew to talk with me about Star Wars, and I'll be talking to other people along the way. There's Andrew right there. He's in the back.
That's me, just cheering that I've been invited to talk about Star Wars.
Yes, and also, once again, your check is in the mail, and if you don't get it,
thank you.
It's probably got lost or something.
It's about time. Keep stiffing me on these checks.
One additional note here. I thought rather than regurgitate the stories, I mean, everybody knows the stories as written and performed and everything. I wanted to talk about the possible permutations and theories and the ruminations of the original trilogy. I remember I about an hour ago I was talking to Bronwyn about something. Oh, I think it was the fact, something about Han Solo, but we'll get into that. So maybe next year I'll do the prequels, but tonight we have Andrew, and later on there will be other guests who will contribute. So the first thing, very quickly, I guess we'll talk a little bit about the teaser that was just released. This is the second teaser, and they're letting out small bits of information at a time to show just what's going on. And what did you think about the teaser, Andrew?
I thought that it showed everything that I wanted to see from the second trilogy that I didn't see. It just, it was like my favorite characters and everything. A continuation of the first trilogy that I'm excited to look at. I'm very excited to go to.
Well, now the original the prequels that came out, they started coming out, I believe, in 1999. Mm-hmm. Now Lucas had already announced a couple of years before that, not even a couple. It was a few years. Like, it was 1987 that he said he was going to start working on a series of prequels, and they were going to be about the events that happened before the movies that we saw. Now, what did you think of that idea when it was announced? Not about
I wasn't the least bit excited about it at all.
You weren't curious about like a young.
I was curious.
Anakin Skywalker.
I was, that sort of, but it didn't grab me. I mean, look, like they basically. It's hard to put into words because you grew up with these characters. The first one was in 1977. I was born in 1976. Excuse me. And I grew up really watching all of these characters, and none of them were in the prequels.
Right.
Of course, because they were prequels and they couldn't be. And none of them were in it, and I just felt disconnected from it. And the first one, like as I've told you before, the first one was so bad that I never bothered watching any of the others.
You're talking about Phantom Menace.
Yes.
Now, I went back, I thought about it. There were a couple of moments in Phantom Menace that I did really enjoy. For instance, I really liked Liam Neeson. I thought he was wonderful in the movie. And I also enjoyed the duel, the fight between Darth Maul and the two Jedi. I thought that was fantastic.
Honestly, I don't recall because it's been. I mean, I saw it in 1999, and I didn't.
You
even
remember
finish
the whole
watching
music?
It
the music. It was like dun 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 dun.
Oh yeah, I remember that. Yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
I mean, that was good. Now the little boy really irritated me. Jar Jar Binks really irritated me.
Yeah.
And Natalie Portman. I don't care how pretty, how beautiful she is. She's not really a great actress.
Yeah.
And a lot of I know a lot of criticism was heaped on Carrie Fisher and a couple of other people in the original movie, the first Star Wars movie, because their acting wasn't as great. I mean, for performances, I guess you have to go with like Alec Guinness and Peter Cushing in those movies. So,
well, I mean, Mark Hamill did a pretty damn good job.
They were all much, much better served in the second movie. And even from there, it goes down, because in Jedi, their performances weren't that great. Empire is the perfect movie, directed by somebody very good with handling actors.
Yeah.
But
that was my favorite of the three.
Mine too. I mean, I wrote an article about
Irvin
it.
Kershner, that's his name.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, so I'm just trying to think of it.
So a little background on Lucas. He attended USC, which had one of the first film studies programs. This was at a time when I want to say the late 50s.
Who attended?
Lucas.
Oh, Lucas. Oh, yeah.
Early 60s. Film was more of a literary form in Europe, and it was seriously being studied, so you had filmmakers in the States looking to European cinema, and movies were made here being looked upon as art in other countries. So because of that, film schools started to pop up. So Lucas is interesting because, to me, he's more of a photographer and an illustrator than a movie maker, because I saw like a short film of his. It was called Look at Life. It was basically just a series of pictures with audio connected. He was doing sound effects work even back then, and that's why, the one thing you can take away from Lucas's movies is really stunning sound. Mm-hmm. And like just such a great way of combining sound effects. He had like Ben Burt, who did his sound montages. That's what they called them. So at that time, he had made THX 1138. Did you ever see that?
I did. I enjoyed it a great deal.
So obviously, he was doing a lot of political stuff with his short films, and THX was his first big feature-length film, and it was very political, that movie.
It was. I don't recall. I mean, this is many, many years ago. I haven't seen it since, but I did enjoy. I remember Donald Pleasance was in it, wasn't he?
Yes.
Yeah.
Matter of fact, Robert Duvall, Donald Pleasance.
Yeah, Robert Duvall and Donald Pleasance. Yeah.
So it's basically about a kind of a dystopian / utopian society where the government controls people through drugs,
right?
And one person stops taking those drugs and winds up wanting to be free,
right?
And the cops in the movie are all robots, and they all have the voice of Anthony Daniels, the C-3PO. So it's funny listening to the guy who does C-3PO saying stuff like, "You're under arrest. Please come down."
Now I have to watch that because I don't recall the voice of the cops.
It was just...
That's cool.
And also, it has another one of Lucas's interests, which is cars. He has like a real high-speed car chase scene in the movie at the end of the movie when he escapes finally. And then that leads into American Graffiti, which is also... Francis Ford Coppola, from what I understand, he told Lucas to concentrate more on his writing because Lucas not a great writer. So Coppola told him that a film director isn't worth anything if he can't sit down and rewrite a script. Right. So, do you think American Graffiti single-handedly brought back this wave of nostalgia that we had for the 50s? What we saw with Happy Days and stuff like that?
No, I don't. I don't. I think it was just part of the whole thing. I think that was just the nostalgia for the 50s was just because people in the 80s were coming of age to where they were making movies who remembered the 50s fondly, and that was where all that nostalgia came from.
Because they grew up in that time.
Yeah, and that was what they wanted to see, and I remember the nostalgia fondly. I enjoyed it, but no, I always thought American Graffiti was something that a lot of people. I guess you could say that it did start it. It was like a precursor to it, but I think it would have happened anyway. I don't think it was like a harbinger, or the thing that started it all. I think it was more. It may have been just at the forefront of it.
So that wave of nostalgia actually continued until probably the mid '80s, because remember we had movies like Back to the Future, which is about time travel, back to the '50s, and Streets of Fire. Streets of Fire. Yeah. Absolutely, it's
really, and Peggy Sue Got Married.
Christine.
So many movies that just took you back to the 50s and.
What I think you said makes a lot of sense in that these are filmmakers who grew up in that time. So it's not necessarily about just some movement coming and becoming popular again.
The reason, I could be wrong because I wasn't paying a whole lot of attention back then. I was pretty young back in the American Graffiti days. When was that?
That was 1974 or so. I was 2 years old. You weren't even born yet, dude.
I wasn't born yet. All right, fine. Yeah, look, American Graffiti, I've never really very much enjoyed. I thought it was very unfocused, and I could really never sit through it. I never thought it was very good.
I enjoyed it for the cast. I thought the cast, because it was like a bunch of unknown people who became mega stars.
Yeah.
And Harrison Ford's in it, too. This is right before he retired again. He had retired twice from acting. He really didn't have, the patience for being an actor. He wanted to be a carpenter, because at least that's a freaking job, like we talk about.
Right, yeah.
He gets paid to do that.
Yeah, it's a paycheck, yeah.
But yeah, I kind of agree with you that I found American Graffiti a bit unfocused. I mean, it's for a young filmmaker, a guy who doesn't really quite know what he's doing yet, and he'd even argue, because I have a book, the George Lucas interviews, I think, where he said that he really never had a head for directing in those days anyway. So
I don't think he's had a head for directing in most days. So I think he's kind of like the blind squirrel who found a nut with the.
He found his nuts.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Andrew. We got a call on line one. This is Mr. Lucas. Andrew, I wanted to take issue with some comments that you made.
Two words, George. Radioland murders. Okay.
Oh, and he disconnected. Sorry. So, I always considered in the first Star Wars movie, the movie doesn't really start. It doesn't really kick into gear until R2-D2 takes off, basically babbling on about his mission, and he goes searching for Obi-Wan on Tatooine. Luke has to go after him. He takes C-3PO along with him, makes him drive, and that's what saves his life. Ultimately, is when he goes out to try and find this little droid. He doesn't wind up getting, killed like his uncle and aunt do.
Right.
So that's about almost 30 minutes into the movie, maybe even 40 minutes into the movie. I mean, back then, you were really required to pay attention to a movie.
Yeah, I tried to show it to Jack, and he was freaking lost by about, but 20 minutes into it, he's doing something else because he really wasn't into it.
This is interesting. With kids these days, okay, I was talking to Mark about this. I said, I showed Star Wars to Regan, and she sat through it. She really liked it a lot. And then I tried to show her Empire. She got bored halfway through. And then by the time Jedi came around, she was not interested at all. But this was 2 years ago. We don't know what's going to happen if I try to show her again.
Yeah, no, I showed Jack the Star Wars, and he made it he got distracted and stopped watching it for a while, but then he wanted to watch it again, and then when it was time for his birthday, he's like, I want a Star Wars birthday.
All right.
But he still hasn't seen Empire or Jedi. We just haven't done it, and I haven't brought it up to him. I have to see. I should probably do that.
Right.
Because that way for family movie night, I could watch Return of the Jedi or Empire, and that would be awesome.
Remember to try to watch
some of the shit that we have to watch other times.
Try to watch the despecialized versions. I know you were looking into finding those.
Yeah,
those are the ones to watch because they look great. Yeah. Now, it isn't necessarily Princess Leia stealing plans and remaining behind as hostage bait. It's Kenobi's idea to rescue the princess, although she knows where the rebel base is. Now, I'm going to pose you a crazy what-if scenario. All right? Now, pay attention.
Hit me.
Here we go. What if they had simply gone to the rebel base? I'm sure Kenobi would have had enough connections to find the rebel base on his own, get there with the plans, and destroy the Death Star before it became operational. How's that for a mind blower? Never mind the princess. Never mind rescuing her. Just get those plans, because it seems
my mind.
It seems that
I would
the
answer
princess,
you, but my mind just blew all over the room. I'm
right.
sorry. I can't
go get some Fantastic and a couple of paper towels.
Yeah, I'm gonna need a lot, because there's like mind all over my ceiling.
So, think about it. Saving the princess, rescuing the princess, is a good chunk of time in the story, and they're wasting a lot of time. And the Death Star became operational and starts, getting ready to destroy. Just take the plans to the rebel base, and you're done.
Mm-hmm. Now, but if Obi-Wan Kenobi was like the man, like how come he couldn't have done all this shit without Luke or anybody else? I mean, like he could have done the whole
There
fucking
was that.
thing.
We had to have the droids crash land on the planet.
Those aren't the droids you're looking for.
Yeah. Also, what are the odds that they would be over the planet that Princess Leia assumed Obi-Wan was on to get the plans? Unless that's where she was heading in the first place.
Yeah, the whole thing's crazy. I don't even know.
So the movie, in my head, the movie would be just about Luke, Ben, Han Solo, Chewbacca, and the droids. But you could leave the door open for a sequel and watch Leia get seduced by the dark side of the Force. That would be.
Or you could put them all in a 1950s car and have them cruising along Hollywood Boulevard.
Roads, where we're going, we don't need roads.
Yeah, Mr. Fusion. Yeah, that's only what's up.
Go ahead.
I have nothing.
That's only if you consider that Lucas had sequels in mind. I know it's been written that the first Star Wars movie was intended to be the first act in a much larger script, but I don't believe it for a second. Knowing
that would have been a really long-ass movie, man.
Yeah, knowing what Lucas knew, with 2 movies under his belt, it would be impossible to shoot the alleged first draft as written. I've looked at the big script, and while there are elements of the second and third movies in it, there's no way in hell it would have been shot. If Lucas had failed, he never would have been given a budget that big again. That was like $10 million in 1975. That's part of why I don't buy that Empire and Jedi were what he had intended. In Hollywood, film directors, to quote Al Pacino, live on the wits. So they try to
live on the wits.
The competent ones, anyway, what they can with
where'd you learn your trade?
So what do you think about that? Like the first Star Wars movie.
I wasn't familiar with that notion that originally it was a plan to be like one movie. Mm-hmm. That's ridiculous. Like it's insane.
It was a 250-page script, for Christ's sake.
Now that doesn't surprise me, but the idea that I mean, I can see taking elements out and then adding them to a sequel, but the idea that like all 3 of these movies were in one, I don't know. It's not that complicated a story, to be honest.
No, it's not. It's very simple, and that's why it works. It's why it appeals to a lot of people, but it's a closed story. It has a beginning, a middle, and an end, and it can end there.
It does. It's actually pretty well tied up. It is a little slow moving. Like especially the first and the second one is really, that one moves on beats like real quick.
Yes.
And the third one gets a little slow moving again.
Yeah.
But the second one in Empire is really like a well-oiled machine of a movie that just fucking does it.
Right.
Irvin Kershner, that was like his best movie. Mm. He did that. He was a big sequel guy. He did RoboCop 2 also, if I recall correctly. That was fucking hard.
Star Wars becomes profitable. Then they started talking about sequels. If you notice, well, you're not going to notice until you look at the specialized edition, because they took the original camera negative from '77, cleaned it up, and did a whole bunch of things. But if you notice, there's no mention of episodes. It doesn't say Episode 4, and it just says A New Hope. And they added the Episode 4 title for the 1979 and 1980 releases to hype up Empire, which was shooting at the time. So I'm thinking that the inventions of Empire, the big revelation in Empire, we know what that is. Mm-hmm. That Chewie slept with Leia.
Yes.
Now, they had little Wookiee babies. Anyway.
And that's why her hair is curled like that.
Yes. There you go. Hey, you did it. So Darth Vader is revealed as Luke's father, and then there's a revelation in Jedi that Leia is Luke's sister. I hope I'm not ruining it for anybody, but
you ruined it for me, dude. I didn't even know that happened, and now here I am.
And now you can't unlearn it.
Thanks, man, for the spoiler alert. All right, fuck.
Fuck. Anyway.
That's good. That's like my version of Napoleon Dynamite.
So I'm guessing that more was added for the second movie, and they wanted to have that revelation. And it's a very strong revelation. Believe me, when I first saw the movie, I was like, "Get the fuck out of here!" But I feel like in the third movie in Jedi, they were trying to top that by having some kind of a secret that was going to come out, namely Luke and Leia. Sorry, Andrew, again.
You're not my father.
So I disbelieve the idea that this was all written in advance. I don't believe it.
Yeah, no, I don't buy it either. I don't know. I really do think that George Lucas kind of like lucked out with this whole Star Wars thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I kind of just like, and that's why he keeps going back and like throwing like perfume on it and little spots and shit. Like, ooh, wait, we added this little droid digitally during this scene. Here, pay another $50 for the same.
So
movie.
I hate to ask, but what did you think of the alleged improvement of having taken out Han shooting Greedo first? What did you think of that? They're in the cantina. Greedo is getting ready to basically kill Han Solo because he owes money to Jabba the Hutt.
I vaguely recall the controversy
movie
over this, yes.
In the original movie, Han just goes and shoots him under the table, and Greedo dies. In the new improved versions that Lucas authorized, Greedo gets a shot in first before Han Solo.
I think that's fucking horse shit and stupid. It should never have occurred. I mean, why change stuff like that? It's ridiculous.
Now, this is what I was talking to Brown about. Essentially, Han Solo is a criminal. He's a smuggler. He probably smuggles contraband. He smuggles illegal items. He smuggles weapons.
Yeah, but he's funny about it. Like he's like he's flippant.
Yeah.
So that's allowed.
Why is it that he becomes a full-fledged general in Empire Jedi? This he's a criminal, and what's more, I realize that he's probably attracted to the princess
because he paid his dues and he helped out the cause, and that's.
But he still owed Jabba the Hutt money, and he was going to get ready to leave in Empire. He was like, "I got to leave. I can't stay. I got to pay off Jabba the Hutt." And they're like, okay, good, best of luck to you,
great general.
And then at the end of Star Wars, I mean, like he's telling Luke, "I got to go. I got to pay Jabba the Hutt." He's really concerned about this, even though he never does it. But and Luke's like, "All right, take care of yourself, Han. I guess that's what you're best at." And if I were Han, I would have smacked his ass because I saved his ass a few times. Mm-hmm. I'd be like, "Hey, Luke," and then hit him in the face.
I wonder if he still owes Jabba the Hutt in the new movie.
Jabba's dead now. Remember?
Are you sure?
Got strangled.
Oh, that's right. Okay,
strangled by a half-naked Princess Leia, one of the hottest. Yeah. The most hot scenes ever is watching her pull on his chain, and I don't mean that figuratively.
I must have been thinking of Pizza the Hutt.
Pizza is going to send out for you. And then you see that robot guy eating some of him as he's laughing.
Like, you taste great, sir.
So, as for the movie, Lucas proves himself adept at photography and camera work like he does. His wife edited the movie, got an Oscar, and then divorced him and took half his money, but that's another story. Performance is another matter.
Baby.
The performances here, like I said, with the exception of Alec Guinness and Peter Cushing, are mediocre. I mean, I don't blame the cast. Harrison Ford once told Lucas, "George, you can type this shit, but you sure as hell can't say it." And there's a marked difference in the performances in the second movie because of Irving Kershner, and he has a very naturalistic approach to the material, and it's photographed a lot better.
I want to know what went wrong with the RoboCop 2. Then, if Irving Kershner is such a fucking genius, what happened with RoboCop 2?
RoboCop 2, I'm willing to bet that they had a subpar script. They had to rush into production. The movie came out, 2 years after the first one?
Well, 3 years. It was 87 to 90, yeah.
And who was the original director? Paul Verhoeven, right?
Paul Verhoeven, yeah.
Who is a fine director. I saw Starship Troopers. I loved it. I thought it was great. I loved the idea of giant
RoboCop
bugs.
was his real best thing he ever did, if you ask me. But
okay.
Yeah, I mean, Starship Troopers had its moments. I always thought it was pretty flawed.
You know what it reminded me of? It reminded me of old newsreels of how you'd see Nazi Germany and the march and fascism and all that stuff.
That was what they were going for.
That's what it really got. I like that.
I thought that was pretty cool. I might appreciate that more now than I did back then. I've seen it since, but not recently. It's been a long time.
Remember Michael Ironside? I mean, he is like a freaking
I
badass.
love Michael Ironside.
That scares the hell out. He's another guy who scares me. I love him. I would love to work with him.
Well, he's 80 now.
Yeah, but he's still scary as hell.
Yeah.
So
I love him. He's great.
Right. 38 years. Now, Star Wars has earned $1,310,000,000, $412,745 in adjusted dollars, and then George Lucas retains merchandising rights and has earned over $12 billion in revenue.
Nice.
So that is serious, insane money, and it almost makes the recent sale of Lucasfilm to Disney, that was $4 billion. That looks like peanuts next to that.
Yeah, it kind of does. But, he made all that money, and then he made another $4 billion,
So me and Mark were guessing. We basically made a $5 bet, of which Lucas will probably get $1. He thinks that the new Star Wars movie is going to pull in $500 million in the first opening weekend, and I said it's going to pull in probably more around $300 million.
I don't know if that's possible logistically with the number of theaters in the United States.
However,
I do expect
theaters.
it to be the biggest opening weekend in the history of movies by far, and but you can't. But you can't. It's hard to put a number on it without doing the math as to exactly how much it can make based on how many theaters it can be in and how many showings per day. But they will all be sold out.
It's going to be probably a minimum of 5,000 theaters and $50,000 to $100,000 per screen. So it is quite possible it could actually do that. I think it really depends on the weather more than anything else. And there's also 3D. It's going to be in 3D as well. Are you planning on watching it in 3D?
I honestly, you know what? I haven't been to any of these new movies in 3D.
In 3D? No.
I have not been to any of them. I would, yeah. Now I can't go with Heather if I do that because the 3D makes her sick.
I've heard this. It causes convulsions and nausea.
Yeah. So
I'm going to give
Heather
it a shot.
Always wants to do the no 3D.
What it tends to, I've seen a show in 3D, just one show. It was at the Central Park Zoo. We took Regan and we watched a movie in their theater, and it was in 3D. It's interesting. It looks great. It looks a little bit like Photoshop layering. You know how you can layer in Photoshop? We talked about this.
I do.
Imagine that for a movie, just a complete motion
picture. You mean
picture.
like Obama's birth certificate? Yes, I do know how you can layer.
There he goes. We had to get political. We've gotten political.
We've done it again. A little of the old ultra politics.
And I'm going to work this in.
You know what she did? Your hunting daughter.
Anyway. I'm sorry. That's it. We just got flagged.
Yeah, we're
for
done.
Star Wars.
That's it.
So, altogether, if it's $1.3 billion for the first Star Wars movie, right?
Mm-hmm.
This is obviously going to pull in over $1 billion. It might actually pull in $1 billion in this country alone.
Yeah, even if it sucks.
Even if it's, remember, Phantom Menace made $1 billion.
Yeah, and this I think people are looking forward to. For Phantom Menace, I really didn't give a shit about. This I want to see.
I actually saw Phantom Menace 4 times in the theater. I saw it 4 times in the theater. I saw Attack of the Clones twice, but I didn't bother watching Revenge of the Sith in the theater. I waited for DVD, I believe. which is unfortunate
You
because
saw
I
that
think
pile of crap 4 times, but you didn't
Yes.
watch the third one that's supposed to be good.
remember when the movies were re-released? Star Wars Empire and Jedi were re-released in a special edition with the added visual effects.
Yeah.
Yeah, I saw all of those in the theater too.
I don't know which time.
This would probably have been
you mean re-released
97.
in theaters. Yeah.
Because my appendix had burst. I was in the hospital, and I saw the first commercial for it, and I was like, oh, I'm going to go. As soon as they take these staples out, I'm going.
As soon as they get all this burst appendix shit out of me,
Yeah.
going. Yeah.
Cool. That is awesome.
Wait. I forget how to play.
Dun, 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 dun.
Then it's like, yeah, remember that part? No. Star Wars. That was awful.
I'm joined by Mark Jeacoma, who was over there on the guitar from VHS Rewind on the Odd and Fistful of Cables. How are you, Mark?
I am doing well, and that is a 1971 Guild acoustic guitar.
That costs more than my child's education.
I hope not. Hopefully your child puts you way more into debt than that guitar. It did cost me $400. Now it begs of a price tag much higher, thankfully.
So I've seen the original Star Wars and its various revisions over 500 times. I've seen Empire over 500 times, and I've seen Jedi over 300 times, and try to figure out why.
I don't believe that.
How many? Can you guess? Can you take an estimate, ballpark? How many times you've seen any of those movies?
Sure. I don't even need an estimate. I know exactly.
Okay.
I saw. I'm going to go in no particular order because why should I?
Mm-hmm.
Empire Strikes Back, the best of the Star Wars, sixology, whatever you would call that.
Okay.
I'm guessing. I'm going to guess I've seen it completely from beginning to end. In reality, 60 times. And it doesn't sound like a lot, but it is. I probably have seen them all between 50 to 70 times.
Now, before we begin, I know you're not a baseball fan, but right now the city is in the grip of the Subway Series, Mets and Yankees. The Mets are on an 11-game winning streak, which could end at any moment. Actually, it's probably going to end now. But I wanted to acknowledge that I am a Mets fan, National League all the way, and I just want to put it out there. And if you have any sense, Mark, root for the Mets. Come on.
Well,
it's their time.
Well, I have two things to say about this.
Okay.
One, I'm not a Mets fan. I mean, more of a Yankees fan. I like the colors more.
Oh,
but that being said, I hopefully they bring home that Stanley Cup.
yeah,
Hope they hit that puck right out of the park.
Yeah, they hit it and they meet at the touchdown line and make a free throw shot. Yes, I know.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sorry. I mean, I wish I had more interest in sports, but I genuinely could care less. I could not care less.
So you were never had an interest? Not even basketball? Not even the Knicks? The Knicks are terrible.
There was a bachelor party once that I went to in Boston. And part of the bachelor party was basically we're going to hang out all day and all night, and part of that was a Red Sox game.
Okay.
And the amount of degenerates that come out for baseball and the amount of heat that was being created in these like overly priced seats and the disgusting food and drink and swill, it really made me think I cannot believe people do this on purpose. It's not fun enough.
That was Fenway Park, which is like 1,000,000 years old, and it's probably terrible. And also Boston fans can, they can blow me. But anyway.
There was this one guy carrying beer, and he's like obviously very intoxicated. It's like, really, you're selling this guy more beer?
Yes.
And he spills half his drink on this kid's head.
Yes. It sounds like a Boston fan.
And it's like, he doesn't even say I'm sorry or something.
He's like, I spilled my beer.
So you gonna give me money for that beer that I spilled on you?
Well,
or else.
I went to City Field twice, and the food there is really good. They have some gourmet food there. You might enjoy it if you care.
I honestly didn't eat or drink anything that was there.
You don't
we had
want
like these special seats in a box, and I'm like, ugh, get me out of here, fans.
So
I'm sorry. I love hockey. I can go to hockey.
Well, the Rangers are in the and the Rangers and the Islanders are actually in the playoffs.
Yeah,
so.
We're Rangers fans in this house.
Oh, burn! Islanders are from Long Island, man.
I don't even know who the Islanders are.
They're a New York sports franchise.
I have no interest. Do you ever go to an Islanders Rangers game? That's a sight for.
They're going to be playing. They're going to be playing each other in the playoffs if they can advance. I believe. I'm not sure.
It's interesting, the amount of fights that break out.
Yeah.
What are you fighting about?
I know. There's lots of love. I don't know why. There's lots of love in a hockey. You know, what do they call it? Rink. It's a rink.
Yeah, it's a rink with the Zamboni.
Yeah. So I thought it would be best to concentrate less on the narrative, which I'm sure most people are familiar with, and concentrate instead on possible permutations, because I wrote an article for Film Threat back in 2007. You got to edit that, Mark. Sorry.
In 1801, when the first blog came out.
Titled The Empire Strikes Back, Great Sequel or Greatest Sequel? And in the article I speculate on how I thought Return of the Jedi should have played out. But first I want to talk a little bit about Empire. It is my personal favorite of the trilogy, my personal favorite of the entire franchise, and yes, possibly the greatest sequel ever. That stacks it right up against Godfather 2, Jaws 2, Karate Kid 2, Breakin' 2, Rocky 2, The Hidden 2, even Star Trek 2, The Wrath of Khan.
I didn't think Rocky 2 was so great.
I didn't consider Wrath of Khan to be a sequel. It was more a second attempt to make a Star Trek movie.
I wouldn't mind seeing a sequel to Wrath of Khan.
Yeah.
More Wrath of Khan.
More. So Empire to me.
Yeah, Empire is the great of them all, aren't they? I mean, most people say, they go right to there's no happy ending, and it's wonderful because it's sad. And it's a good point.
I know a lot of kids back in those days did not like Empire as much as they liked Jedi. They weren't rewarded because Empire, to me, is like, it's an ode to failure. Nothing works. In my article, I wrote that at its core, Empire has an indie heart and sensibility. Lucas, as well as the screenwriters, Leigh Brackett and Lawrence Kasdan, are never afraid to deal the characters we've come to know and love a crappy hand. The hyperdrive, Luke's injuries, the failed battle on Hoth, the high mortality rate among the Empire's finest officers at the hands of Darth Vader, the Empire's takeover of Cloud City, Lando's betrayal of Han, Han's torture, Han frozen in carbonite, the failed rescue attempt, it goes on. So I think kids were turned off by a lot of that, and they really liked Jedi a lot, probably because, I'm going to mention the Ewoks, and they're going to the destruction of the Empire yet again.
I love the Ewoks.
We're going to get in. I'm going to tear Jedi a new one tonight, Mark. So you better be prepared.
I just need to, before you do that, you have to realize if you're a genuine Star Wars fan, you have to wholeheartedly accept everything from Mr. Lucas.
Yes.
Everything,
including, and I have to mention, Radioland murders.
No. I mean in Star Wars. I mean, I'm not forcing Howard the Duck on anyone. But at the same time,
I'm sorry, my headphones just popped right off my head when you said that.
With Leah Thomas.
I could have sworn I told you, Mark, do not mention Howard the Duck, or was I talking about Vinnie Vincent? I'm not sure.
Howard the Duck is Vinnie Vincent the Ankh.
The Ankh warrior.
I get very serious when I talk about Star Wars, and even with my kid, he's 6 years old, and I'm like, well, this movie doesn't have an happy ending,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And he's like, why are you telling me that? It's like, well, that's important to know. I take this stuff very seriously.
And you've got him like in tears as you're debating Jedi with him, right?
He has his own opinions of all of this, which is great. We watched all the movies so far. Like we actually got through them all. And even the Revenge of the Sith, is it called? I'm losing track of the new ones.
You're talking about even the prequels too?
Yes.
The third, Revenge of the Sith.
We watched them chronologically from the world of Lucas, which
Right.
I consider starting from 1 to 6.
Yes, I remember the last time we spoke about this. You said you were going to do that, and you were going to start at the prequels, and it worked
We
out.
knocked it out. Yeah, we knocked it out. He got through the lava scenes, which I thought he was going to have a problem with.
Those were pretty brutal.
They were
scenes.
brutal, but they're fantastic, and he liked it, and the fact that I would have to say that movie ends on even a darker note than Empire. I mean,
Very much so. Yeah.
Come on, it's so sad. And all right, I mean, I'm jumping around, but I just want to say, when it comes to the changes that George Lucas made to his work, I just feel as though he has the right to do that.
Of course, he has the right to do it, but
whether or not like anybody agrees with him, I mean, it's the same thing. I've said this to you in the past. It's kind of like somebody reaching out to you and saying, "Well, that documentary you shot. Well, I don't like the way that this guy looks, and I think you. No. I don't care what you're saying, David. You have to do it because that's what I want." It's like, who are you to say that?
Well, that was a documentary. I can't really go back in time and tell an actor how to do something. I mean, a musician, anyway. Can I say
alleged musician? I can really play guitar. I just can't play Star Wars.
The final scenes in Sith. It was that final battle between Anakin and Obi-Wan was fantastic, except the final part where he's missing limbs and he's on fire. Mm-hmm. And he looks up at Obi-Wan and says, "I hate you." He sounds like such a petulant little whiny brat.
But when did you last see
Obi-Wan, I would have chopped his head off. The last time I saw Sith, a couple of years ago.
Yeah, I think you should see it again.
Okay.
Because I think that if you're watching and you're really into the scene, and after just watching all these movies and leading up to this, I just feel as though the acting was not as wooden as I recall in the theater.
It was a little bit, the acting got better with Sith a little bit. It's just so hard because, I'm
very accepting. I apologize for this. I'm very accepting of these movies.
Well, right after that, we get James Earl Jones going, "No!"
Yeah, that was a little cringeworthy.
I mean, he's kind of like you know what's going to happen when you're watching this. And also, the Emperor, he's such a dick.
Yeah.
He is such a lying little, maybe I'll let loose some F-bombs tonight. Anyway. So George Lucas decided at this point, after Star Wars, to never direct another movie again, which he obviously fell back on. He proclaimed that there was too much compromise, or as Ridley Scott would say, it's never everything you want, which is true when you're directing. So he brought in his old teacher, Irvin Kershner, and this is where Lucas's deficiencies as a director really come out, and they are once again on display in the prequels. But Kershner handles actors really well. You look at Harrison Ford, Mark Hamill, and Carrie Fisher in this movie, and it's like they're completely different actors. The dialogue is much better. The droids are less annoying. Darth Vader is more menacing, and this is what you really want.
There's still a lot of goofy jokes though that people forget about.
Yeah, but they seem to they really pop. They really pop. Like,
but people forget about this when they look at. I don't find any of the jokes funny.
No,
I don't.
Not even Chewie laughing?
The best I can. No, Chewie laughing. I mean, we've said this before. I think we've had this conversation. I think that Chewbacca is just as goofy as Jar Jar Binks.
Yes,
Banks, whatever his name is.
Well.
He's there for comedic relief, and people don't see that. I don't know why.
Well, Jar Jar, his accent. His
accent is very strange.
The thing about Chewie is you don't get half the things he's saying. It's basically Han who's translating for you when you're watching the movie. Mm-hmm. You kind of get an indication. Chewie's like R2-D2, where you can kind of guess what he's saying, but you don't quite know what he's saying. And Chewie was like laughing at something. I forgot what it was. I think it was when Leia says, "I don't know where you get your delusions, laser brain," and then Chewie laughs. And he says, "Laugh it up, fuzzball."
Right, stuff like that I think is humorous.
I got a big laugh in the theater.
I don't remember. I'd have to. I mean, I don't. Originally, or
when I remember seeing it, I do remember getting there was a big laugh, and I didn't really hear any laughing when when Jar Jar was talking. I did hear a little chuckling when Liam goes and grabs his mouth. He grabs Jar Jar's mouth, and everybody went, "Thank you."
Well, here's the thing: you can watch a sitcom with a laugh track, right? And you can base a joke based upon if the laugh track is laughing, or you can base it upon what you genuinely think is humorous or funny.
True.
I don't find the stuff that Jar Jar Binks saying particularly funny or humorous either.
I'm just thinking of it's stupid. Some of the things he says weird things like "okie day" and "misa go to corsan okie day." It's just like, what?
You know what makes me laugh every time is when, like, Han's snarkiness, kind of like,
yeah.
I got him, great kid, yeah. Just don't get cocky, you know. That was good. There's a lot of cool Han time. You know, I can't say there's any lines where I don't like from Han.
Yeah, are you talking especially about Empire?
In general, everything.
Well, we're going to get into Jedi. We will,
except for Boba Fett.
Boba Fett. All right, yeah. We have to talk about Boba Fett because you had an interesting theory about Boba Fett, which kind of blew my mind.
Well, it was my theory, and I was at a party.
By the way, before you start, I advanced this theory to Bronwyn, and she just gave me a long, strange look for about 5 minutes.
Because she was running it through her mind here. It could have been great. Right? It's a good way to introduce, and yes, I'm going to blow your mind, Boba Fett as a female character.
Not just a female.
But an ex, or let's see, what would she have been? A jilted lover of Han Solo's.
Yeah, or you know, his steady or whatever.
Or anything. You know, just some chick.
Yeah.
And I was thinking Boba is kind of a feminine name, right, with the A. So that's where I got this theory from in the early 1990s of last century.
This was, wow, you had this theory back then, too.
Yeah, and I had this theory I was preaching and getting a lot of people pissed off at me.
Why? Why would they possibly be pissed? This was the early 90s, you said. Right?
Yeah, I was in Lemore's, the rock capital of Brooklyn.
Yes.
We're seeing Law and Order perform. We went back to this girl's house.
I saw Metallica at Lemoore.
Really?
Very small club date. It was like a secret, special,
That's awesome.
club date. And they just went there. This was a couple of months after And Justice for All came out.
That's awesome.
Before the Black Album.
It's like, welcome to the rock capital of Brooklyn.
Yeah. And it's no longer there anymore, which is sad.
Yeah. I saw Kiss there without makeup.
What was that? Was that the Revenge Club Tour?
That was me tagging along to some show because I was like, I don't want to see Kiss without makeup.
Oh,
I'm like the rest of America.
Yeah. Wow. I'm sorry. We have Gene Simmons on line one over here. Mark, I heard what you said, Mark, and you must never say that again. You got that?
Can I get your credit card for the Kiss coffin? I'm a big fan of Kiss. I love Kiss.
Kiss and Star Wars. That's all that matters.
Forever. All right.
It's so weird. Okay, can I say something? The two biggest merchandising juggernauts of the 1970s never got together and did a crossover.
Donnie Marie and Kiss?
No, I was going to say Kiss and Star Wars, but you got a point there. Actually, Donnie and Marie were on the Paul Lynde Halloween special with Kiss, so there you go.
And Donnie Marie also had Star Wars on an episode. The whole cast.
The two never got together. So why is that?
6 Degrees of Kevin Bacon.
Yeah.
So Boba Fett, female. That was my theory. And I saw Law and Order. Went home, this girl, Natalie, we were friends with. We were kind of hanging out at her house in Brooklyn. And these guys, you know, a lot of people just kind of came back, just hung out. It's like 4 a.m. or something.
Right.
And we're all just kind of, you know, hanging around, drinking beer and whatever. And I go, and comes to the topic of Star Wars, like would happen very often. Do you think they'll ever make another Star Wars? No. Mm. And then I go, well, Boba Fett's a girl, you know. And I swear, I think they were going to kill me. Like,
really?
I have these Brooklyn, like, tough guys. Like Vito Bratta. I have Vito Bratta from White Lion.
Like the Lords of Brooklyn or the guys from Typo Negative or something.
It's like, It's like, what are you kidding me? You kidding me with that? Is this guy kidding?
Yeah, it's like when you make a funny noise and there's a dog in the room and the dog raises its head and cocks its head a little bit.
And I said, I'm like, think about it. It's almost as though Boba Fett is obsessed.
Yes.
In a very stalking way with Han Solo. It's very much like a girl who is obsessed with an ex-lover or a fan of something. So why not? Why not have? We don't see the face. Why can't it be a woman? Leia can throw thermal detonators and be, she's tough as nails.
Yeah.
So, and in my opinion, Princess Leia, Carrie Fisher's the single strongest female character of all films.
In the original Star Wars, in a deleted scene, before Han Solo meets up with Luke and Obi-Wan, during the whole exchange at the top of in the bar, where he says, "This little one's not worth the effort. Let me get you something." Chops off the guy's arm. Han Solo is seen with his girlfriend. He has a girlfriend in another cut of the movie. She was cut out of the movie completely. Wouldn't it be interesting if that was the girl?
It was Boba Fett.
He probably hangs out with tough girls too. He probably stood her up, left her behind, and went on this thing, and then winds up going on this whole mission with the rebels and everything. And let's not forget, he is a criminal, and he's probably dashing. He's probably a love him and leave him kind of guy, which really kind of puts the whole Leia and Han relationship into perspective when you think about it that way. But what if Boba Fett was indeed that female that was cut out of the movie?
And I think it could have been. But as we know from Attack of the Clones, it's not true.
Tamora Morris.
He's an ugly little kid with a big forehead.
Yes. Who picks up his father's severed head in the helmet, which is a lovely image for every child, I guess.
Bizarre, right?
And, there is also... Boba has such a major hard-on to get Han Solo. And not only does he capture Han Solo, freeze him in carbonite, but he stays in Jabba's palace.
We don't know much about Han Solo when we really get down to it.
Yeah.
He's worth a lot to me alive.
Yeah.
Why?
He's no good to me dead. That's what
Is that what he said? I'm paraphrasing. I don't remember.
He's no good to me dead. He will not be permanently damaged.
But wasn't there a line where he's worth a lot to me?
What if he doesn't survive? He's worth a lot to me.
Okay.
That was right before they froze him.
Why, though? How much money does he owe to Jabba the Hutt? I mean, he's a small-time smuggler.
I don't know. Well, according to Greedo, Han had a whole shipment of whatevers, and he just dumps his cargo at the first sign of trouble.
Right. I mean, it could have been just an entire cargo of spice.
It could have been like a bunch of 7-Eleven plastic cups with different comic book characters on them.
None of which were Star Wars. Although 7-Eleven did have a collection of Kiss cups. They go for like $400 for a set.
And also there is the kind of feminine way that Boba Fett walks. Boba Fett kind of walks, and I was thinking about Leia was dressed up as a bounty hunter in Jedi. Walks a lot like Boba Fett. But
I have a feeling it was never even a suggestion. It was never going to happen.
This is what I'm talking about with permutations. Our ideas here, they would have been really fascinating if true.
Mm-hmm.
It would have been awesome.
But the fans would have hated it.
Luke, Leia, and Han develop into multi-dimensional characters in Empire with bravura and feeling. Romantic interplay suggested so many possibilities for future storylines that were left completely heartbroken by a lack of emotion and passion in Jedi. Of course, with George Lucas's assertion of Luke and Leia as siblings, that kills any dynamic of tension, and it ruins the relationship of Solo and Leia and Jedi, in my opinion, anyway.
And there's also the lost kiss. There was another kiss.
Yes, true. And
you remember that was, I believe, in Empire.
Never was their chemistry more easy and palpable than the scenes of sexual tension on Hoth, their arguments and everything. And there was a fight. There was a 3-way fight between Luke, Leia, and Han.
This could have been easily rectified by doing what they did in Back to the Future.
Which was?
When Marty McFly's mother kisses him, she's like infatuated with him.
And we all kind of throw up in our mouths at that point.
Right. And she goes, when I kiss you, it's like kissing my brother.
And he like looks at her for a long time.
That could have even been one of these kind of weird things. Kind of like they could have thrown that in to give a hint. But I believe it wasn't written. I think that was a last minute, not last minute.
You think Luke and Leia almost kissing on Hoth wasn't in the script? Is that what you're saying?
I believe that it wasn't a final decision to make them brother and sister.
Yeah, that's
until maybe towards the end of Empire.
Maybe they had
while it was even in production.
More of a family relationship, obviously, because Leia and Han swap spit at that point. It's not going to look good for her to continue to. But this is something I was talking to my friend Andrew about. I think I felt that when they wrote Jedi, they wanted a secret that was going to be as big as the one that was in Empire. So now the problem is you can't look at the success of Empire without thinking of the failure in Jedi. Jedi almost destroys Empire with its intentions and the franchise for me. So we have to do this. We have to talk about Jedi now. Now it's time.
Well, how old were you? How old were you when Jedi came out?
Let me see, Jedi came out in 83. I was 9 years old.
Okay, so we're like same thing. I keep forgetting if you're a little older, a little younger. But yeah, I was probably 9 or 10.
Right.
And I loved it.
I loved it too.
Great.
When I was 9, I loved it.
Oh, okay.
I saw it every day. My mother and I went, we didn't have anything to do. For like 6 days consecutively, we went to see Jedi. And movies were a lot cheaper back then too.
Yeah, it was like $3.50 for a matinee.
Yeah. You could just go and see Jedi if you wanted to. So
we should have Star Wars movie theaters.
well,
where you can just go see any of the movies. Just go in. Star Wars, Empire's starting in 15 minutes.
So for the 9-year-olds, when we were 9 years old, the movie was great. It was great to see it, another Star Wars movie in the theater.
It's still great.
And it's a success movie. It's not a failure movie.
That 9-year-old is still in you.
Yeah, obviously. When I saw the teaser, it was just...
Yeah.
I felt like nothing had changed, but then I looked down at my gut and I see this thing sagging, and I'm like, oh yeah, I forgot I'm 42.
A reawakening.
So I remember making the statement in my article for Film Threat that Jedi doesn't really start as its own movie until the death of Yoda, because these plot threads continue from Empire, and that's where everything pretty much goes to hell. It could be right after Han's rescue, which could have happened in less convoluted fashion, but I think what should have happened was that Lando sacrifices his life in order to save Han, square him away in karma. Han's guilt over his friend's death could have propelled his adventure. The second Death Star is a little ridiculous since nobody says anything about a backup space station, and I'm referring to the original unaltered versions of the movies, not the special editions. Mm-hmm. So I think Luke should have destroyed his father and indeed taken his place at the Emperor's side, and then Leia and Han would have to fight their friend, and then you'd have a great samurai conflict. I mean, the Jedi are just a souped-up version of samurai anyway. Instead, we get Ewoks.
No, but that's too technical of a storyline for a 9-year-old.
Well, but think about the conflict. I mean, Leia and Han would have to either reason with Luke and make him turn.
Think of it from a business standpoint. George Lucas is making his final chapter.
Mm-hmm.
Lucasfilm he's like, I'm going to do this one, and that's going to be it. They can't. Why does he want to create this entire epic twist where things are just completely crazy, where you have to make another movie? The Star Wars universe is created by one man, and that's George Lucas. I mean, it has been anyway. And everything he says goes.
Right.
And I just feel as though the theory, like even my Boba Fett idea, it was cute and everything, but it's not the truth.
It would be awesome if it were, though. I like that.
Right. I mean, your theory and everything would have been epic. It would have changed everything.
Yeah.
And it would have definitely promised the a 7th movie way before now.
And doesn't Jedi kind of come off, if you look at it with like older eyes, kind of comes off as a more expensive remake of Star Wars, just the original, because you have a Death Star, you have to go through all that again. It feels like a lot of things were just sort of thrown together. There, from what I understand from the producer, I'm not sure. No, actually, it was what was his name? Gary Kurtz, the producer of the first two Star Wars movies. He said there was a script that wasn't even going to involve. First off, it wasn't going to involve Harrison Ford, and it was going to be a lot more streamlined, less convoluted. It was going to be more about conflict, and Yoda wasn't going to die, and it wasn't going to have Luke and Leia as a sister. This is his story. He says he got into rows with Lucas, and Lucas didn't want to work with him anymore because apparently, I guess Lucas was used to having people who said yes to him, not no. And I think one of the reasons Star Wars and Empire work so well is because Gary Kurtz is a very strong producer, and he has his own ideas. Howard Kassanjian and Richard Marquand were yes men.
Well, I don't think you can make Star Wars with yes men. You can't make any of these movies with people who are just going to kiss your ass. The amount of talent that are in these movies, and even right down to the Ewoks. The Ewoks, I think, look spectacular. Even I just watched it a few days ago. Although I do feel as though omitting the song was a good choice in the new release, whatever's.
God, that was just.
My 6-year-old thought it was great, and who are we making the movie for at this point? You have to really ask yourself: is George Lucas here to make the fans happy?
Did you show your kid the original versions, or the despecialized, or the new ones?
The new ones. I have them on Blu-ray, and those are the only important ones anyway. Like
so Yub-Nub? No,
they don't exist. Those are versions that are, as far as I'm concerned, uncirculated proofs.
Yeah.
It's just true.
Well, I kind of, but I prefer to look at those. I can't really look at the Blu-rays
I would
anymore.
never say that somebody shouldn't watch those. If he becomes a big fan in the future, I have them waiting for him.
Okay, yeah.
But to confuse him with these little tiny subtle changes is not important.
Like one of the very rare collectibles I have is a THX remastered original widescreen VHS box set of the trilogy, signed by George Lucas, and it's worth over $500, I believe.
Really?
But I'm never going to show Regan that.
Why not?
She's not getting her hands on it. I know exactly where it is, too. It's right next to my box set widescreen Star Trek movies, which I'm going to leave you after I die if you need to watch them. But
Star Trek ones?
Yes.
Oh, that's awesome, because I need some blank tapes.
Yeah. Okay. They're VHS.
I'm just going to, you know what I'll do is I'll just tape over them. Yes. F you, Star Trek. My VCR is not connected to anything, so I'm just going to pop it in there and press
record snow.
Put a piece of tape over the thing.
So I'm going to bitch about the Ewoks for a second because you brought it up, but 2 points. No one ever says the word Ewok in the movie.
Right.
So this is obviously a cheap marketing ploy by Lucas to sell even more toys. The second point was that in the early
cheap.
The second point was that in the early drafts of Jedi, it was supposed to be Wookiees, not Ewoks.
Yes, yeah. That's where the name comes from. Actually.
Going for cute, not efficient. If it were a planet of Wookiees, they could very easily defeat the Empire. But Lucas likes underdogs, and also he cites a correlation between what happens on Endor with the Vietnam War. Basically, the Vietnamization of soldiers were the Ewoks because they didn't, in the technical sense, defeat American troops, but they certainly made it very difficult for us to remain, so we had to leave.
No, I cannot agree that if it was a planet of Wookiees, they would easily defeat the Empire.
This Chewie is probably stronger than Darth Vader in terms of strangling people, anyway. That's the thing. Plus, they use lasers, they use weapons.
They do.
And they're smart. He's a co-pilot. So assume that Wookiees are just like us, except taller, hairier, and stronger.
Right. But here's the thing. What about the Christmas special?
Life Day.
Now we see it. Yeah, Life Day. Thank you. I couldn't remember it. You do have a masterful memory, Mr. Lawler.
And also Carrie Fisher high off her ass singing at the end.
Who wasn't? You know, the Arthur was too.
Well, I know that Harrison Ford has the same look in that show that he has in Jedi, that he does not want to be there. He's like, why did I agree to a TV show?
What about Alec Guinness?
I don't know about Alec Guinness.
Alec Guinness referred to the movie as a silly, like, science fiction like thing. He like put it down. He took 6%, I believe. I'm not sure about the number. 6% of the gross.
Yeah, he had sent a telegram to one of his acting buddies when he was working on it, and he called it rubbish. He called it rubbish. He's like, I'm doing this rubbish, but they're paying me very well.
And it's like 6% of $1 billion is quite a few bucks.
He never had to work another day in his life, but
and he deserved it, because I think he brought real expertise in,
he was wonderful. He was even as a ghost in Empire and Jedi, even with that crazy circular logic dialogue that Lucas insisted on putting in there, and some of those conversations, when he says to Luke, what I told you was true from a certain point of view. Right. If I were Luke, I would have tried to clock him one, but my hand would have just gone right through the ghost.
But if you watch the the second movie, or the third really, you see what they're protecting him against, and you realize like the lying is really important to protect Luke.
I know you had a theory about this. You said something one time about how they needed to light a fire under Luke's ass to get him to do something with his life.
Right.
Rather than be some back planet farmer.
Well, I think when you say they needed to, I think you're absolutely right. What choice did they have at this point?
Well, then Leia, why not? How come no options for Leia here? I mean, she is the sister, and she also has the powers as well. If you
she's untouchable. She's doing her work in politics.
Yeah.
Think about it. She's fighting,
Hillary. I understand.
In her own way, she is fighting the good fight. I mean, she's certainly not a friend of Vader's.
But the jig is up by the first movie because they capture her, so they know that her loyalties lie with something else.
Right.
It is a period of civil war, but if we go with like the idea of Luke and Leia fighting each other, then Leia would be considered the New Hope rather than Luke, but they decided not to go that way. And if Irvin Kershner had directed Jedi, it would have been much, much better, maybe a little more gloomy. But Richard Marquand, as competent a director he might be, is having to deal with a micromanaging George Lucas over his shoulder, closely supervising him, so he doesn't actually get a chance to direct. In fact, I've read articles that suggest that Lucas really directed the movie, and Marquand was just there to assist in the setups and call action.
I'm really not sure why Lucas gets so much anger towards him. Like, I really don't.
From me. It's mostly from me.
I really don't get it. I mean, it's his film.
Right.
You don't hear people getting mad at like Gene Roddenberry or something. What does everyone agree about Star Trek? Everything?
Well,
really?
We might as well address it. Now, this is like an American pop culture product, and I know that Lucas wrote, produced, supervised, directed, and created this. This is his baby. But as a product of pop culture, we, the fans, are the ones who have given this movie, the series of movies, its life. We are the reason that he made Empire and Jedi and Phantom Menace and the rest of them. We're the reason this new movie is coming out, because we pay, and we pay very well. I mean, we're talking like $12 billion in merchandising alone. We bought action figures. The movies have made billions of dollars all over the world. So when we do that, we assert a title of ownership in a way to these movies. So we feel like we own them because they're part of our life. And I was one of those people, and I'm sure you're not, based on some of your comments, but I felt,
You felt jilted.
I felt like he was tinkering with something that was already perfect. And when he went and did that, even Jedi, even the Jedi 1, 2, 3, the middle three movies there, even Jedi, I saw as being leave it alone. It's imperfect. There's no way to fix it now. It's part of history. And he keeps going back and trying to change little things. And to paraphrase my friend Andrew, he's throwing perfume on it every couple of years and saying, okay, that's another $50 you got to pay me. And so there's a pride of ownership that comes in, discovering something yourself.
All right. Well, this is how I see it. And I understand where you're coming from, but I'm going to compare it to something that's, I think, really easy for anybody to understand. Like, they can definitely apply this towards it.
Okay.
So it's a lot like when people like a band, like the Beatles, for instance.
Yes.
And people or Bob Dylan's a good example. He picked up the electric guitar, all of a sudden people all mad. Mm-hmm. It's the same thing. Well, no. You are our musician. Those albums are ours. No. Those albums are just albums. And they're made by him. And you bought a copy. And you got you had the ability to share a moment recorded. And that's it. Now, did he make other albums or the Beatles, Led Zeppelin? There's a number. I'm gonna throw the Beach Boys in there, just because I'm a big fan of like early Beach Boys.
Pet Sounds.
Yeah, Pet Sounds. Which and that's going to be one of my examples. Now, Pet Sounds was remastered in the early 2000s, and they changed a lot of stuff. They released a 5.1 surround version.
Right.
And people got all mad. People were like, "Well, why are you tinkering with it? Why are you doing this? Why are you doing that?" And you could say, well, we're the fans. You're famous because I clunkered down $10. And it just doesn't work like that. You're going to tell like Jimmy Page that he can't go back on a remaster and make his guitar sound a little different because it doesn't sound like the original record. It's his right to do it. And it's
his
only right.
Yes, I agree.
And if he wants to even take out stuff or release a mono version or whatever. And that's why I look at it in this way. Now, did George Lucas take a certain level of creative license that people pretty much can say it's unheard of? Like, you don't go and change a scene for the most part.
Well, hand shooting first, I would say, changes the dynamic completely for the character.
But it's his choice. It's his work. And I don't think we have any right to say, no, you can't do that. Or it's wrong.
If I can extend the analogy of the music, I remember when Sgt. Pepper was first released on CD, it was remixed and it was remastered. And George Harrison actually took exception with it. He said, the sound quality is very good, but somebody threw in a tambourine.
Oh, really?
And it's very loud. I know it was in the original mix, but it was never that loud, and it's really obnoxious. I hate it. Now, that was Harrison. Mm-hmm. So obviously artists can complain about something. He didn't have, I guess, any power in that decision, or maybe he was just outvoted at the time. But the thing is, I think when you create something,
it's actually Michael Jackson on a tambourine.
I'm sorry.
It's Michael Jackson playing tambourine.
What I was trying to say.
Did he buy the rights to that album? I don't know.
Who?
Michael Jackson.
Yeah, Michael Jackson had the rights at that point. Yeah.
Okay.
He outbid McCartney in 1984.
It would be kind of funny if like Michael Jackson added in.
You should throw some tambourine in there. It'd be really good.
No, okay, I'm going to do it anyway because I own it, and he could have.
Yeah, you got Stevie Nicks to do it.
But if J.J. Abrams came by and he said, "You know what we're going to do? We're going to," or anybody from Disney, we're going to start adding in scenes. We're going to insert Hayden at the end of Return of the Jedi.
Oh, when they,
which, yeah.
Thanks for reminding me about that too. I had to think about that.
My kid goes, "Who's that?" Because he saw Return of the Jedi first.
Yeah.
And then we watched them all again chronologically. But he goes, "Who's that?" It was just so funny.
You know what?
Because he had no idea.
they totally dissed that actor too. The actor Sebastian Shaw, who played Anakin, older Anakin, by removing him physically from the print and putting Hayden in there.
And it's a choice I think is not a great choice.
I don't know. My wife didn't really care. I don't know why I get angry about these things, Mark. I really don't. But we watched it. We watched the special edition, and she sees Hayden Christensen there, and she's like, okay, whatever. You want to do that, fine.
Girls don't like Star Wars that much. That's why.
Oh, wow.
That's proof. That's proof in the pudding, right there.
Okay. But the thing is, okay, if I was going to make a profound statement here, now I got my thought together. When you create something, you throw it out into the world, and it is your child, basically. I want to sound as pretentious and as asshole-ish as possible when I say it.
No, you know what? Think Pearl Jam. Think Eddie Vedder right now.
Okay. So when you make a movie or you make a record or something, it is no longer yours once you're done with it. It is now up to the cultural zeitgeist or the pop culture sieve to decide what to do with it, and they will destroy it or they will hold it up and worship it in a way. So your responsibility ends there, and now it's other people who are taking care of your work of art, your child or whatever. And the thing is, Lucas would never have been able to do this had it not been for the success of those movies. He would not have had the power or the clout to do this if it wasn't for us, people like us. And he goes and he tinkers with it. I like when he stays within the lines of the movie and cleans up the visual effects. And he adds a couple of nice little visual effect twists. But what I don't like is the little things like Han shooting first or Luke screaming when he falls off the ledge.
Who shot second?
Nobody shoots second in the remastered, in the special edition. Greedo tries to get a shot in, and then Han has to defend himself. See,
no, that's like an unreleased footage you're talking about.
Unreleased? No, the special edition, the newest versions.
No, the new version. I mean, the one that's actually the one that counts. The one where Greedo shoots at, the one that Han shoots at Greedo to... Wait, how did it go down exactly?
They're having their conversation, and Greedo says, I've been waiting for this for a long time, and he says, yes, I'll bet you have, and he just shoots him right under the table, and he's dead, and he says, sorry about that.
Yeah, that's the unreleased thing.
That's the original.
But it's it's not official anymore. Let's leave it at that.
You say so, sir. But for me, that is the Star Wars right there.
Can you buy that version anymore?
I believe you can.
Legitimately?
There are still versions. Yeah, you can still buy it, but it's in a really crappy kind of. I'm
totally kidding, but it's the way I see it is that's no longer available. It's out of print.
But it changes a great character motivation because Han is supposed to be a criminal. He's supposed to be a badass. He's supposed to not do things by the book. And instead, Lucas believes that Han should be a hero, and heroes don't shoot first. And, we can't unlearn that. I've seen that version so many times. I've only seen the new version, a handful of times. I can't really watch it. Because it's not consistent. Because Han's kind of you look at him in the first movie and the second movie, he's kind of a bastard. He's a jerk.
Right.
He wants to leave. Leia's like in love with him. She's all but throwing herself at him, and he says, "I'm going." He's arguing with her, and then later on in Jedi, watching his character just erode completely. It looks like he's like sleepwalking through the movie. The only performances in Jedi that were really, really good, in my opinion, were Mark Hamill and Ian McDiarmid as the Emperor, because Harrison Ford doesn't want to be in Jedi. He was becoming a superstar at the time because of Star Wars. He signed a 2-movie deal with Lucas, and according to, I think, the producer of Jedi, he was written out of the franchise when his character was frozen in carbonite. So Lucas told him he shouldn't even bother pursuing Harrison Ford for Jedi, because if you look at the movie, he's really marginalized. It's more Luke Skywalker's story. It's a story of Luke and Darth Vader.
Right, but you can't. He had to go save his friend. I mean,
well, yeah, we had to have it. These are the good guys. They have to behave like good guys. But Han in 2 movies kept trying to leave. He kept trying to go. He said to Luke, "I got to go pay off Jabba the Hutt," and he says, take care of yourself. I guess that's what you're best at. And then in Empire, he's like, I gotta go, General. I can't stay if I don't pay off Jabba the Hutt. You know, he keeps trying to get the hell out of there, and no one's letting him.
Yeah, that's true. He is actually has the best of intentions of paying his student loan.
Yeah, that is probably what it is. If he had Greedo come after him, it was definitely student loan. Yeah,
probably. You know, Greedo was wearing heels.
Really? Oh, well, I have a Greedo action figure. Maybe I should take a look.
I wonder if that's on the action figure, but I know if you look for another shot, you could find a still where he's wearing heels.
It was really cool when I got the Greedo. Actually, Hammerhead and Greedo were like two of my favorites in that Cantina sequence.
I always liked the Walrus Man.
Walrus Man. Oh, he had such a strange language about him, didn't he? He was like...
He had two lips and they were going the wrong way. What do you want?
You know what he looked like, right?
Yeah.
You look at his face, you know what he looked like. He wasn't Walrus Man. He was Vagina Man.
Yeah.
He doesn't like you. Sorry. I don't like you either. You just watch yourself.
But you know what's weird? This is my criticism.
Oh, Admiral Akbar, too. Another great character I liked from Jedi. Go ahead.
Yeah. Wasn't he Admiral Akbar, like Calamari? Who was Calamari?
He was a calamari man. That's what they called him.
Yeah.
He was squid. He was something you order on a plate with a little marinara sauce.
Exactly. Make it extra crispy. Thank you.
And also, did you notice whenever he talked, he had to breathe? Because apparently, like, he's underwater.
And so that's the same actor that was in the beginning of Empire when he's like, General, I have to leave.
Oh,
that's the same actor.
The guy that Han Solo's talking to is the voice?
Yeah, if you listen, next time you listen to him, listen to the voice.
Its defenses lie around the perimeter.
It's a crap.
It's a trap!
I have a T-shirt where it's a picture of him, and there are no words. It's just a picture of Calamari guy, and has his two fingers in one of those Chinese
Chinese finger puzzle?
Yeah, finger whatever.
I already know where you're going with this.
And it doesn't say it's a trap. It's just a picture of him with his two fingers in it. And so I think it's funny.
So you get other people to look at it and to complete the thought for him. It's a trap.
Yeah, I mean, so many people are like, that's fucking hilarious, dude.
Actually, you know what I got to say? I like that picture that you have on your Facebook page. It says it's a T-shirt. It says #1 Star Wars fan. It's a picture of the Enterprise.
Yeah, I don't have that shirt. I really would love to get that shirt.
That would be one of those things that you would have people say, wait a minute.
I've seen a similar one where they give the Vulcan sign and it's like, may the Force be with you.
That would be awesome.
That's genius. It pisses people off so badly. It's so funny.
Live long and prosper. So you had one more thought. You were going to say something about the cantina. We got off on a tangent.
Oh yeah, I was just I did just watch all 6 movies with my son.
Right.
I'm going to have to go and say that Phantom Menace was just not a good film.
No.
And I cannot say it wasn't for lack of trying. It was not good because no movie could be good. I feel as though they felt, where the hell are we going to start? We have to create an entire universe from scratch at this point.
Right, yeah.
Where do you begin? And I feel as though they gave it a good try, and they got caught up on things that they shouldn't have gotten caught up on. Nonetheless, it's the beginning, it's the universe, and I accept it.
Well, then what do you think of all the politics in the first movie and the second movie?
It's boring. It's just so boring.
There's a lot of talk in the Senate, and you got the Congress, and you got all this stuff. You got trade embargoes and things like that. You know, it's weird. It's like Lucas is trying to appeal to adults, and then he's also trying to appeal to children as well.
Yeah, and it's not possible. The opening scene to both of episode 1 and 2 looks so cheap and awful, and I don't know why. It's almost like it's intentionally made. Because when these movies came out first, I had gotten an advanced copy of episode 2. Like I got it like Chinatown. The guy was like, I got episode 2.
I mean, you got a bootleg.
Yeah, I got a bootleg.
Okay.
And I bring it back to my office. I only worked like 2 blocks from here. I run right into my conference room. I pop it into the VCR. I mean, this isn't, what is this, 2000 maybe? I forget what.
1999, I believe. Well, no.
Second one, I don't remember.
Second one came out 2002.
Okay. Pop it in there. Yeah, it's still a VCR there. And I'm looking at it, I'm like, is this even the real movie? It just doesn't look real to me. It looks so cheap. And I remember that when I was watching it just the other day. I'm like, it really still looks really cheap for some reason. But it's like the beginning of both movies. And also the extras are always looking at the camera. Like they're bad extras.
There is a problem there because...
You get that too. You've caught on that?
A lot of this has to do with the way it was shot. Lucas did not build practical sets. He built sets that only reached about 5 or 6 feet high, and then filled everything else in.
And they felt like that.
Yeah, and he blue screened it basically, and his actors were very limited with what they could do, so it didn't feel as natural as with the actors from the first trilogy, and also, you know, the performances. But if there was like 2 things I have to point out about the first movie that I did enjoy. One was the speed pod race.
It's certainly a highlight of the film.
The pod race and the lightsaber battle at the end. Those were the 2 best moments, but unfortunately they're surrounded by just a lot of like place filler dialogue and just to get the story going. But I did enjoy.
I would have liked to see a little backstory on Darth Maul. But...
Darth Maul, yeah, I know. He was hyped. He was hyped very much like Boba Fett was hyped for Empire, and then he dies. He gets chopped in half.
Yeah.
But
no blood. No blood.
Yeah, no blood either. And also, I was kind of sad that Liam Neeson's character died because I liked him. Actually, I liked him quite a bit in the movie.
I just felt like he had to die, kind of too. But he was very good. He was definitely a highlight of the movie.
Yeah, and like him and Ewan, I thought were pretty good. But Natalie Portman I just thought she was a terrible, terrible actress.
I felt like she wasn't right for the role. By the time I get to the third, I liked her in it.
But I didn't.
I liked everything about the third.
What I didn't like about the third movie was her, actually, because in the first and second movie, she's very heroic and very brave. In the third movie, she's pregnant and frightened most of the movie, and I didn't like that. It was a turnoff for me.
Yeah, she was a bit of a victim.
Yeah.
She
died of a broken heart.
But, that's a real thing. When people die, they lose the will to live.
Yeah, but I felt like I needed a little bit more of an explanation, like if they gotten some coroners from House or something to actually determine the cause of death.
Well, you take a Vader choke. See how you
Yeah, it is possible if they had just said something like, "Well, she lacked oxygen to her brain, so in effect, you did kill her, Anakin." So, that would have been.
It was a lot better in like the third one. This is probably the third time I've ever really sat through and watched it. And I really thoroughly enjoyed it. I felt as though it really sets up episode 4 nicely.
Yeah. Yeah. I would say that the death of Padme, the birth of the twins, and the birth of Darth Vader in that kind of montage was very well executed. It reminded me of Godfather 2 or there was a montage scene in Godfather that reminded me of that.
Never saw it.
There's a scene where all the enemies...
I'm kidding around. Of course I saw Godfather.
All the members of the Corleone family, the enemies of the Corleone family are all gunned down while Michael Corleone's child is being christened.
Yeah.
And it very much recalled that for me. So I did enjoy that.
These are things that people like Quentin Tarantino and other directors of the 90s took to the extreme and kind of bastardized a bit.
Yeah, yeah.
There's no elegance to it.
Yeah.
But, you're absolutely right. And The Godfather, which, I really want to watch those movies again pretty soon.
I guess that wraps it up for BlissVille. And I want to thank Mark. And I also want to thank Andrew, who I had a previous discussion about Star Wars with. And Mark, if you want to play us out with...
Actually, we have Andrew's on the line, right? This whole time we have Andrew on.
Andrew made a very funny comment.
Hello?
He said that George Lucas basically lucked out with Star Wars trilogy, and that he's like a blind squirrel who found a nut. That's what he compared him to.
Now, a lot of people love to hate on him, but the bottom line is without George Lucas and his visionary ideas, we would not have such an incredible collection of stories and movies to share with our children.
And we would not have Scientology. And that pretty much covers. You want to play us out with the Imperial March?
No. If you want, I can play it on YouTube. Imperial March. Hold on.
I call it the Chaka Khan March because I always go Chaka Khan, Chaka Khan, Chaka Khan.
Unbelievable. You know what came up? 10 hours of the Imperial March.
Just on a loop?
Yep.
Oh, wow.
All right, but here's the Imperial March.